Hey everybody, I'm here to show you a few tips on how to navigate lifting heavier weights for upper body exercises as you're getting back into a regular normal fitness routine where you're using possible dumbbells or anything that's just heavier than what you're used to if you're working out at home or at some sort of facility where you just don't have adequate equipment to challenge yourself. So I'm over at the bench press. Most people that come back into a gym are going to be excited to see this because you may not have access to this elsewhere. So what I recommend is whatever you've been doing to train your upper body muscles, specifically your chest or any type of pressing motion, still predominantly do a lot of that. So what a lot of people have been using has been dumbbells. So dumbbells, typically when you're using them, you're not going to be forced in one fixed range of motion like the bench press. With the dumbbell, you can hold here, you can rotate out this way. So your shoulders are free to move, so they're not restricted. With the barbell, that bar's not moving. It's not bending, it's not changing. So your shoulder is going to be fixed in a set position. So this can add additional stress to your joint in your shoulder, your elbow as well. And also one thing to mention is when you're using dumbbells or any other type of equipment, you're not going to be using as heavy of a load. You're just not going to allow for that. This can be loaded fairly heavy, a barbell. So one thing to also note, you may feel a little more discomfort in your wrists, in your elbows, or in your shoulders. So what I would recommend is to do a nice warm-up. And if you need to, wear some type of jacket, somewhat like a light jacket, just to warm up, to get your body temperature up. That'll help your joints feel a little bit better. You may notice that things that used to not bother you when you warmed up will now because you're not used to using this weight. So try not to jump into it going right back to what you used to do, even if that's not the same weight but the same workout structure as well. So still keep it maybe 50-50. There's no magic ratio here of what you used to do at home or wherever else you were doing something, as opposed to one of our facilities or a commercial gym. You need to know that whatever you're doing with something heavy, with a barbell, whatever it may be, it's going to be a lot more taxing on your joints, and you're not going to recognize it until later on. So you need to slowly build up your capacity to handle those. So I'll run you through a quick warm-up I'd do for a bench press just to get ready for benching, especially with something that I haven't really been using for a while. Typically, I like to start with some type of face pull. It can be a rear delt fly as well if you don't have access to cables. But what's excellent about this is you can slowly work into a great range of motion, working the backs of your shoulder. And you can always start with that, but you can also alternate it with your lighter sets of whatever pressing motion you're doing, say a bench press and push up, whatever else. You can alternate those back and forth to give yourself adequate rest for both exercises, but you're still moving and you're also opening up your shoulder, preparing for whatever you have next. So even if you feel like you've adequately warmed up, always make sure to do at least a few high rep sets, somewhere around like 8, 10, maybe even 12, of whatever heavy exercise you're doing. It doesn't have to be heavy for the warm up, but try to get it to something where you're not extremely fatigued at the end, but you're able to practice moving that weight under a load that's fairly challenging so you can focus on your coordination. You may not notice it until the weight gets heavy, but your coordination in the movement, whatever you may be doing, is probably decreased from the last time you've done it just because of the lack of practice. So really emphasize that as you warm up as well. It's going to be very important, especially as you push yourself and challenge yourself. Something you may not realize, especially when you start using heavier weights for all your other exercises, you may notice that pull-ups are especially tough on your elbows and your shoulders just because of the positioning demands. So as you're doing these, the requirement for more stability and the fact that your entire body weight's dangling can make this a little bit more taxing on your joints. So one thing to do is if you start to notice that, shift over to some form of pull down or machine exercise where you're doing that same motion. It's going to cause less stress at your joints and enable you to do those other exercises that are fairly heavy but also challenging for you, and slowly ramp that back up to whatever you may have been doing before. As you're beginning to lift heavier weights again, and challenge your upper body the way it used to be. Always emphasize your rows. Make sure not to forget them because they will play a vital role in your shoulder health. Hope you found this helpful. Good luck training your upper body, everybody.